Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Biafran Golden Child, the real Biafran Golden Child. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're hearing my voice from. This is the Biafra Golden Child, and we have always said we are committed to exposing, anything that is not beneficial to the life of a Biafran, anything that is not conducive to the life of a Biafran, anything that is, uh, you know, uh, totally anti, Biafran. So this morning, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to our notice, yes, that the group has come out, the group who has come out and said, look, headers attacks. Because of incident headers attacks, in several communities, several states in the southeast, a group now plans visa ban campaign against four southeast governors over alleged complicity. Ladies and gentlemen, a group plans visa ban campaign against four Southeast governors over alleged complicity, when it comes to Hadas attacks. We have, in one of our audios, told you that it appears in this group called Nigeria, it appears there are two laws. Yes, attack a Fulani jihadist and you are sentenced to death. Your community is razed by fire. If not, a state of emergency declared in your state. However, delete a Christian, kill them in their sanctuaries, in their church, kill them in their farmlands, murder them anyhow you can. And of course, it is described as an issue for the gods to, revenge upon. The Christian is told, forgive and forget, live and let live, leave vengeance to your God. Every other person looks the other way. That is what seems to be the new law. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, yes, the Human Rights Organization, African Examiner, yes, the Human Rights Organization, the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, Inter-Society for short, they call themselves the Human Rights Organization, International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, otherwise called Inter-Society, has lashed out on four Southeast governors over what it described as their silence of the graveyard and alleged conspiracy in the secret and unchecked attacks in their various communities by suspected Fulani herdsmen. It said the increasing secret and unchecked jihadist Fulani herdsmen attacks in various communities across their states has become unbearable. It named the accused governors to include Dr. Pitamba of Enugu State, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo of Anambra State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, yes, and Honorable Francis Nwefu of Ebonyi State. The research and investigative advocacy voice in good and inclusive governance in Nigeria, stated this in a 35-page special report titled The Persecution of Christians and Traditional Worshippers Sweeping the Southeast, which it made available to newsmen on Thursday. Yes. It posited that the silence of the graveyard or conspiracy of silence and inaction maintained by their governments in regards, to increasing secret and unchecked jihadist Fulani herdsmen attacks in various communities across their states over the years, particularly since 2015, 2016, with a spike since 2020-21, is worrisome. To the extent that today their states are saturated by alleged jihadist activities of Fulani herdsmen and allied others in many of their 78 local government areas put together. According to the group, the localities are widely and strongly believed to be facing threats of attacks or undergoing secret and open attacks targeted at defenseless Trado-Judeo-Christians of their state's hinterlands. The document was signed by board chairman of Inter-Society, Comrade Emeka Umeabalasi, a criminologist and conflict peace studies scholar, Barrister Chinwe Umeche, human rights lawyer, head, democracy and good governance in the organization. Others who appended their signatures in the report included Barrister Obianuju Joy, Ibueli, human rights lawyer, head, civil liberties and rule of law, Inter-Society. Engineer Ekene Beats, Umeago, head, religious freedom and human rights of the group. The group also noted that the persecution of Christians and traditional worshippers is enveloping southeast Nigeria, Enugu, Anambra, Imo, and the Ebonyi governors, indicted for complicity and complacency in the religious violence and attacks on international freedom of religion or belief, saying the governors risked visa ban and international isolation campaigns. It alleged that over 40 traditional worshippers are languishing untried in illegal detention in Anambra for over 60 days, adding that silence and refusal to act aided over 20,300 Igbo Christian deaths since 2015 in Nigeria's southeast. What a terrible number. 20,300 Igbo Christian deaths. In the executive summary of the report, Inter-Society explained the reason why the indictment and planned visa ban campaigns against the said governors became necessary. The report indicted 4 serving governors in the southeast of Nigeria: Peter Mba of Enugu State, Charles Soludo of Anambra State, Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State, and Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, other than Governor Alex Oti of Abia State, who is temporarily exempted. Yes. The 4 governors are widely accused and fingered to have been conspiring with the Nigerian government and external others in threatening and undermining present and future territorial, citizen and property, security and safety of their states and defenseless citizens. The totality of the above has endangered lives and properties and threatened their defenseless peoples' fundamental human rights to ethnic and religious identities, including rights to be born, develop, and live in a secured and protected environment. In addition to marking their present governments out as those promoting religious violence and attacks on international freedom of religion or worship or belief, contrary to sections 38 and 10 of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution and globalized international human rights on freedom of religion or worship. It must also be pointed out that many jihadist activities of jihadists, Fulani headsmen, and allied orders in Igbo land states of Anambra, Enugu, Imo, and Ebonyi, under their gubernatorial watch, are either rarely reported or covered and suppressed or censored under the watch. Several reports also abound exposing indiscriminate third-party land purchases for the jihadists across the southeast by delegated persons or state, federal government, remotely linked middle persons, including top government officials or appointees or others close to their government. The indictment of the 4 governors is inclusive of the past and serving Homeland Security Commissioners and Special Advisors on Security, or those in charge of community security, vigilante, and border conflict resolution matters, appointed since assumption of office by the 4 indicted governors. It's also very important to clarify that our soon-to-be organized visa ban and international isolation campaigns against the 4 indicted governors will be extended to members of their nuclear families, wives, children, and wards. Consequently, the inter-society will soon reach out to her international partners for visa ban and international isolation campaigns against the four indicted governors, targeting to have them banned from traveling to democratic and religious freedom respecter countries of the United Kingdom, United States, the European Union, and Canada, and their allies, particularly those compliant to the dictates of democracy, rule of law, and religious freedom. We also make bold to say that those who aid, abet, promote, fund, and perpetrate international religious freedom abuses and violations in Nigeria or any part thereof must no longer be allowed any breathing space, no matter their pretenses and camouflages. It was also our investigative finding that violators of religious freedom in Nigeria are no longer restricted to armed and unarmed radical Islamists domiciled in the quarters of state and non-state actors, including their aides. Others are sponsors and investigators found to be complicit, aiders, and abettors of the raging Nigerian Christian democide or genocide. Yes, he said, others are sponsors and instigators found to be complicit, aiders, and abettors of the raging Nigerian Christian genocide, quote and unquote, and allied egregious attacks on lives and properties of the country's defenseless Christians and defenseless members of the religious minorities, including members of the traditional African religions and the Organization of the African Instituted Churches, many Christian leaders and Christian politicians. Others include political office holders bearing Christian names. There have, there have been several reports indicting and linking the four serving governors of Enugu, Anambra, Ebonyi, and Imo State to brutal attacks and suppression of the fundamental human rights of the citizens to practice African traditional medicines, progenitors of modern medicines and practices, and African traditional religions, progenitors and forefathers of Christianity in Igbo land. It is also very important to inform that the four indicted governors, as chief security executives and finance officers of their states, with more than 66 constitutional powers and duties outlined in the current legislative list and other provisions of Nigeria's 1999 constitution, are found to have substantially failed to ensure security and safety of their territories and those of their own people and their properties, particularly by failing to have them secured from the hands of state actors and conspiratorial orders, clandestinely protected Islamic jihadists using cattle rearing and ranching, in quotes, nomadic jihadism, and other disguises as a pretext. These the four indicted governors found to have done by way of inaction, complicity, and silence of the graveyard, and rapacious incompetence, thereby putting their own people and their properties at high risk of insecurity and unsafety, including wanton and indiscriminate destruction of their lives and properties. Southeast is in Nigeria's largest Southeast is Nigeria's largest Catholics and second largest Christian region after South South. Under the watch of the four indicted Southeast governors, egregious religious violence and attacks on defenseless citizens of their respective states and their movable and immovable properties have ballooned and risen to an apogee since 2015, worsened by their inaction and gross incompetence in the management of crossover jihadist Fulani herdsmen and allied orders, attacks from neighboring states, including Kogi, Benue, Nasarawa, Edo State, Delta, Cross River, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom. The jihadist Fulani herdsmen attacks on Christians and their properties in the past decade or since 2015 in Benue State, the southeast closed-door neighbor, including wanton loss of lives, dwelling houses, churches, and farmlands, for instance, have uprooted almost half of the state's Christian population of estimated 6 million and generated over 3 million Christians and forced them uh, to the internally displaced persons, IDPS camps, and sacked over 200 of their communities and villages, with tens of hectares of indigenous Christian lands across the state seized or annexed. Governor Charles Soludo and his government have failed the litmus test of being responsible, human rights and freedom of religion or worship respecter. Yes, once again, they said Governor Charles Soludo and his government haven't failed, haven't failed. Yes, Governor Charles uh, Soludo and his government haven't failed a litmus test of being responsible, human rights and freedom of religion or worship respecter. The government has lost legal and moral grounds to continue to detain without investigation, charge, and trial of the over 40 detained traditional worshippers held illegally in an illegal detention facility, State Militia's Lion House at Oka, for more than 60 days. The above clearly exceeded the constitutionally prescribed 24 to 48 hours of maximum of 60 days of arrested if arrested by police or secret service and detained in any of their custodies for offenses bordering on capital punishments, especially when such detention is for purposes of continuation and conclusion of criminal investigations. More so when governors in Nigeria, including Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State, are constitutionally and statutorily barred from detaining citizens in their militias, custodies through remand orders or holding charge. Following the failure of Governor Charles Soludo-led government of Anambra State to ensure due process and rule of law in the instant case, and having controversially labeled, lampooned, ridiculed, humiliated, and degraded them by publicly portraying them as those involved in fetish and demonic religious practices and violent crimes. In addition to exposing them to public ridicule and danger, the over 40 arrested and detained native doctors who have been illegally detained without investigation and charged or court trial for over 60 days have no case to answer as it stands and in the eyes of extant criminal laws and their procedures governed by Nigeria's 1999 constitution. In other words, Messrs. Chigozie Nwangwu, yes, Akwa Okoko Tiwara Aki, Abuchi Ikechukwu Okafo, Chijindu Nweze, Onyeka Onyeji, Vice President of the Umuoji Improvement Union, Onyeze Jesus, Ekene Igbokweze, Ekehit, Mmili Nwiro, and over 34 others must be released unconditionally and freed, having been placed under unlawful custody using hearsay conclusions and false labeling, sobriquet, trial by ordeal. The lawyers and family members, their lawyers and family members should take the advocacy notice of the above by rising to the occasion. The government made the ban during the governor made his ban during his recent visit to Ochanda Market in Onitsha. The above is also nothing short of a clear manifestation of the dictatorial and tyrannical state detention of Persons Decree 2 of 1984 of the Nigerian military's inglorious epoch. The International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law is adding her international advocacy voice by urging the Donald Trump government of the United States of America to ensure that Nigeria is returned to the list of countries of particular concern, quote and unquote, countries of particular concern, for egregious abuses and violations of international religious freedom. The inter-society also strongly calls for inclusion of jihadist Fulani herdsmen and jihadist Fulani bandits in the international list of entities of particular concern, quote and unquote. They finally, conclude that they are also in strong solidarity and agreement with the respected groups calls for the U.S. to continue to stand firm against threats to freedom of religion worldwide. According to the Vatican News of March 25, 2025, cued from the Reuters, the Commission is a bipartisan federal entity established by the International Religious Freedom Act (IRFA) of 1998 that makes foreign policy recommendations to the U.S. government and Congress intended to deter religious persecution and advance freedom of religion or belief internationally. Its recommendations help the U.S. Its recommendations help the U.S. State Department draw up its annual list of governments and non-state actors that engage in or tolerate systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom. We respectfully disagree with USCIRF on the ground that in its list of 7 terror entities recommended to be designated as, quote, entities of particular concern, 2 of Nigeria's most atrocious religious terror entities, jihadist Fulani herdsmen and jihadist Fulani bandits, and their patron bodies are omitted or excluded. This is despite the 2 deadly religious terror groups accounting for over 75% of abductions, disappearances, captivity, and open killings and wanton destruction of properties, including churches and Christian schools, dwelling houses, and farmlands. The above is in addition to the fact that more than 145 Catholic priests and hundreds of other Christian leaders have been abducted since 2015, and not less than 12 Catholic priests abducted in the first 3 months of 2025 alone. We therefore urge the Donald Trump government of the United States and the US CIROF to ensure that Nigeria is returned to the list of their CPC, quote and unquote. The jihadist Fulani herdsmen and jihadist Fulani bandits and their patrons enlisted as entities and their patrons of particular concern with commensurate international sanctions to deter others and ensure respect for international religious freedom. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That's how to tell you that the international community is now fully aware that 4 governors of the Southeast, 4 Biafran governors, have proven, to be complicit, you know, and to be aiding and abetting by their graveyard silence, inaction, and sometimes suppression of, attacks by Fulani jihadist headsmen and their allied uh, uh, brotherly organizations. So this group has come out vigorously, to campaign for visa ban against 4 Southeastern governors, including their wards, including their families, including their aides. Yes, the Human Rights Organization, International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, Inter-Society for short, has lashed out on 4 Southeast governors over what it described as their alleged conspiracy in the secret and unchecked attacks in the various communities by Fulanis, suspected Fulani herdsmen. He said the increasing secret and unchecked jihadist Fulani herdsmen attacks in various communities across their state has become unbearable. It named the 4 accused governors to include Dr. Peter Mbao of Enugu State, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo of Anambra State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Honorable Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State. So, ladies and gentlemen, here you have it. That's to tell you what is happening in the Biafran states of the Southeast. Keep your eyes wide open. Nothing goes unpunished. The time has passed when Christians are told to turn the other cheek, when they are killed, when their properties are burnt, when their properties are destroyed and their lives are taken. No more. Yes, this group has said it is taking the campaign internationally. And of course, they are reaching out to Donald Trump to do the needful, declare Nigeria as a country of particular interest because of the nefarious activities of these Southeast governments who pretend as if nothing is happening when their people are killed, innocent people brutalized, properties and lives destroyed. Enough is enough, they said, and they have taken their campaigns right to the United States, to Canada, to England, and to Europe, all democratically abiding countries. Time will tell where this will tell. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, anything Biafra, anything about the redeclared United States of Biafra is what we eat every day, is what we drink every day, is what we breathe every day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue to pray for the redeclared sovereign United States of Biafra. Let's pray for our leaders, including maximum leader Mazen Namdekano, who is undergoing trial now. We know he's in good hands. He has a powerful lawyer. Yes, a powerful lawyer handling his trial this time. This time, a two-time Attorney General of the Federation, Chief Kano Agabi, who is handling his matter. We also wish to, pray for, able Prime Minister Simon Ekwanjoko, who is still being interrogated by the Finnish authorities. And we believe Finland is a democratically elected country, sovereign nation. I believe he will go through the normal processes of the law and rule of law will prevail. Please let us all pray for our Deputy Prime Minister to continue to work well, to do well, with unhindered progress, with undistracted attention. God bless you all. God bless the United States of Biafra. Thank you and God bless.
Biafra must be restored, for there is nothing the enemies can do about it. You brought Biafra that light may come into Africa. You gave us hope because we are in a continent of hopelessness. And by thy grace, Biafra shall be restored. We shall be resurrected. We shall crown our efforts with the glory by the grace of the Most High Himself. We are not strong. We do not pretend to be strong. All we do is to submit ourselves to your will, that your will may be done upon our lives. We have lost many people. We have lost so many good people. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. We shall honor them, and for their sake Biafra will come. Because we are wandering all over the world, hoping against every hope that things will turn around for the better. It has never turned around for the better. Instead, it is getting worse. Please do not abandon your children. You have given us a commission, and we must accomplish it in our lifetime. Our enemies are equally important because they must listen. Those who do not love the truth must listen. Those who are beholden to darkness, they must also listen. For we are here to bring light upon a very darkened continent without Biafra. Africa is nothing without Biafra. There is no difference between a black man and a wild animal in the forest. We say every shred with every ounce of conviction. I welcome each and every one of you. If you're joining us for the very first time, this is Radio Biafra. This is how we do it. We magnify the name of the Most High before we do anything. That is why we are exceptionally formidable. That is why